Hello, and thank you for joining me, Dave Knight, for this week's podcast, which is number 63 in our weekly releases. A huge warm welcome to you all as we get straight into this 9 p.m. Sunday Settler. These weekly individual podcasts are wrapped up into tailored, bulletproof yourself wellbeing packages, and you can access those via our website sundaysettler.com and clicking on the Bulletproof Yourself page. This week's Sunday Settler is entitled Slowing Yourself Down, and we'll be exploring the impact of the speed of our thinking, identifying any blind spots or misunderstandings rather that we can carry around with us due to the speed of our thinking, the speed at which we're living our life at. And having a busy mind means that we are full to capacity, and if we can just slow our thinking right down, we'll give ourselves that opportunity to increase our levels of consciousness and see something differently, an insight. So please get yourself into your relaxing space for 10 to 15 minutes. This is your time. Each of these weekly podcasts are seeds, if you like, to the understanding of our innate health and well-being. And due to the pace at which many of us live our lives at, and we spend a lot of our time revved up, full to capacity, there's not much room for anything else, is there? And we have such a busy mind, we're feeling so full that we're thinking, can anything else be squeezed in here? Can the inspiration find its way through? Can the solution to our problem, our challenge, be found? Can we find the new direction that we've been looking for? We can innocently find carry with us blind spots, can't we? And have misunderstandings and unnecessary emotional baggage due to the speed that we're living at. And this is all the sign of a busy mind. And if we can slow ourselves down, or rather slow our thinking down, it helps us to find our way through the quagmire of our thinking and experience something different. And I'd like to use a metaphor of us driving along the motorway. The faster we drive, let's say 200 miles per hour, the less time we have to notice, to observe, and to process things and to consider what's going on around us. This would mean then that the slower we drive, let's say at 30 miles per hour, the more chance we have to spot things we might not normally notice, things that might be right in front of us, under our nose. The sight of really cool buildings, the colour of the fields in the distance, the smell of the air outside, or perhaps more in context to challenges in our lives, understanding the cause of the constant bickering with our partners, why we have perhaps been shouting at our children more often than we usually would, the reason why we have been feeling more pressured and overwhelmed at work. And taking this on a bit further, the slower we drive, the quieter our mind becomes, and the increased opportunity that our inner wisdom has to unfold, to come through us. The answers we've been looking for, the new idea that has always been there, or the new perspective on a problem, with a quieter mind, all those things can come through. Or we might even realise, was it even a problem in the first place? Does it really matter to us at all? Have we been misunderstanding our experiences that all began with a thought? And now they've been carried through time, those kind of self-created misunderstandings. They may have become that self-created limiting belief that is holding us back in some way. But we know life is busy, don't we? It's incredibly busy, and most of us are juggling so many different roles and responsibilities. And whether we're single, married, divorced, or recently widowed, have children or not, are studying at school, college, university, we have hobbies that require commitment, time-wise or financially. We have a mortgage, large or small, have health problems of any kind. Perhaps we have those bills to pay that are really heaping up. Have friendships, both short or long term, near or far away. We're involved in other relationships which are either going really well or not at all, with lots of conflict. We might have goals that we have been set or have set ourselves, and we're striving, aspiring constantly to get to them. Perhaps we're homeless. We have hopes, dreams and aspirations, and we just don't know where to start. We might have an addiction problem to a substance or any other particular behaviour. Those kind of life scenarios that I've just mentioned aren't exclusive, of course, and there are many more. But they're very likely to be a mixture, aren't they? Not in isolation. They're very likely to be a mixture of a few of those things, and they interact, don't they, at some level. One thing seems to be working very well, and it means we are struggling to maintain another area of our life. That kind of thing. So they might work either in harmony together, or they work in conflict, or with mutual benefit. But whatever we have going on in our life, it is a challenge to live at, say, that 30 miles per hour. And if we feel that we need to slow down, the best place to start is with our thinking. And the driving speed metaphor can be applied to many common life challenges and behaviours. At 150 to 200 miles per hour, we're experiencing that Sunday afternoon feeling and the dreaded week ahead, perhaps. Those deadlines, there is anxiety, the feeling of being overwhelmed, not sleeping, likely to be indulging in behaviour, unwanted behaviour such as substance misuse, being indecisive and frustrated about things. Around 100 miles per hour, we're exhausted. Thank goodness it's the weekend. Have you ever heard of that? Perhaps you've said it yourself. I certainly have. We need a beer or a glass of wine, or to do lots of exercise and as a way to try and balance ourselves out in some way from the stress of the week that's just gone by, or as we're preparing for the week ahead. That ache in the shoulder, the neck or the back, or where has that come from? Where have those aches come from? They've just come from nowhere. All of a sudden, those aches and pains are quite persistent. We could refer to these as those rumble strips in the motorway. They are indication that we've gone off piste, gone off the motorway, and we need to get ourselves back in the lane to find our balance again. Just like the rumble strips in the motorway, when we have these aches and pains or these stresses, it really is our body telling us through our psychology that we've drifted out of our lane and we need to get back in. They're telling us to slow down, or even perhaps to take more care at the wheel. There's a high risk of burnout at 100 miles per hour. And if we're just reducing our speed, but we're still at 70 miles per hour with our speed of thinking, this is one that I can really relate to. I'm so busy, feeling like we need to get away from it all, feeling pumped up, stressed out, needing to take a holiday. And my share regarding this particular speed of thinking relates to when I was in the midst of just selling my business. And my self-identity had completely changed. Well, I felt it had anyway. And I've shared over time parts of my experience during that period. And I'd say at that time my speed of thinking was a constant 70 to 80 miles per hour. It was actually a period of time when I had little or nothing going on in my life. Well, at least nothing professionally anyway. And there was the identity change. I didn't need to have anything going on. I'd lost my mojo. I'd achieved everything that I'd perhaps set out to achieve at that time. But I was extremely unhappy. I didn't know who I was or where I wanted to go next. What can I do next? It was never a case that substances played a balancing act for me. However, the gym certainly did play its part, and so did the domestic chores and being around my children. However, I know now that you can fill your time with doing nothing, absolutely nothing, and yet you feel busy. And that's your speed of thinking telling you you're extremely busy. Too much thinking, a busy mind, the apps overloading the mobile phone, and not actually knowing which apps that I needed to delete from my phone to allow for that new idea to come through. Procrastination, that's what it was. A fast thinking speed was undoubtedly the reason why I was indecisive about my next step, why it took me so long to make that first step into a new career. It was also the cause of the frustration with everything else around me. I realise now that if I'd carried on at this rate, I would quite honestly have burnt myself out. I know that. But how is that selling to you, more importantly? And can you relate to it in any way, perhaps? Since my major first insight back in September 2018, I've continued to deepen my understanding of the human experience, and my life has completely changed, the whole trajectory of it. I wouldn't even say it is a deep understanding as such, but compared to others I know. But I'm not here to compare myself with anyone else. I know what I know, and that's all I need to know. And trying to know more like anyone else takes the joy out of knowing what I already know, if that makes sense. And knowing what you know is all that you need to know. So lots of no's there. This leads me to a general thinking speed of 30 miles per hour. Being grateful for the things we personally enjoy, noticing and observing, using less energy, having more time, performing better, and generally feeling like we have more capacity. In context, capacity for new thought to come through, insights. And at 30 miles per hour, we use less fuel and energy, don't we? And we don't require a lot of concentration. We see the views, have more margin for error, more time to react and respond, and more capacity to perhaps at any other speed to be able to do those kind of things. So what if we did slow right down? What if we did slow down right now? I'd like to ask you, what would you say is your speed of thinking? 50, 100, 150, or 200? And if you have opportunity, and only when it's safe to do so, please close your eyes and take a few deep breaths, feeling your chest rise and fall. And imagine you're driving along a road at your current speed of thinking. But rather than miles per hour, let's call it thoughts per minute. What are you noticing? What can you see? Is it daytime, nighttime, or dusk? Is it a slow country lane or with windy roads, or a motorway that's empty or full? Are there fields nearby with animals and strong smells of nature? Is it loud or quiet? Now, whatever the thoughts per minute speed you're travelling at, slow it down by 20 thoughts per minute and look outside again. What else can you see that you didn't see before? Eyes back on the road. What has changed for you? Now, bring the thoughts per minute down to a slow speed now. Another 10, 20, or even 30 miles per hour if you can manage that. And look outside again. Breathe, smell, notice and observe and feel the chair that you're sitting in or the bed that you're lying down in right now. Eyes back on the road. What has changed for you? When you're ready, start to notice again where you are and notice your chest rising and falling and those breaths that you're taking in through your nose and out through your mouth. Start to notice your breathing and take your time. This is your time after all. You're in control. And as you're coming round, I'd like to say that the reality of life is that challenges will present themselves, and they always have, and they always will do. But our states of happiness or sadness will change too, and the feeling of stress, anxiety, or pressure and overwhelm that we feel also changes. Whatever our state is, it's not a constant. And this is the nature of the human experience. It's how we are made. And there will be times when we speed up to 150 miles per hour. It's what we do as human beings. However, understanding where those experiences are coming from in the first place can really shift the whole trajectory of your life, as it did mine and many others that I know and those that I work with. It's part of my approach to working with people to plant those seeds to this understanding. Learning to be less fearful of the experience and knowing that it will pass will allow the natural change to to occur more effortlessly. The experience is all coming from the thinking, the energy that we're giving to our thoughts. By subtracting the thinking, this creates capacity in your mind to experience something new, a shift in our understanding, knowing where your experience is coming from. By just deciding that you're not prepared to accept a busy mind any longer, you'll know when you start to have one. That's because you would have created space and capacity to understand that misunderstanding. In this podcast, we've considered the pace at which we might be living at our lives at, using a driving speed as a useful metaphor to highlight our speed of thinking. And it puts the spotlight on the possibilities of missing things, having misunderstandings about our challenges, or rather carry around blind spots which could be holding us back in some way. By reducing our thinking speed, we create space and potential for fresh new thought to come through us, which could be the inspiration we need, the solution to our challenge, or even realizing that what we thought was a problem isn't actually a problem. It doesn't matter to us, or at least as not as much as we thought it did matter to us. Having an understanding of that alone gives the opportunity to consider those metaphorical apps on our mobile phone that are no longer helpful to us. And if we create space by getting rid of those, we have capacity for a shift in consciousness and a new perspective on our challenges. This has been a great podcast, and I've enjoyed speaking with you, and I really appreciate you listening to this. And if it's been of interest or useful to you in any way, please continue to help us share the impact of this work, and like, share, follow across your platforms, or even recommend to someone else to have a listen or get in touch with us. And subscribe to our newsletter via sundaysettler.com if you haven't done already, just to keep up to date with the work that we are involved in week to week. And if you're feeling a little lost or stuck at the moment and think you would benefit from an initial call with someone to discuss any challenge in your life, call me and we can take it from there. If you quote "slowing down," you'll receive a 20-minute free intake call, 10% off your first full session with me, and support in between sessions as well, just to clarify anything that we've discussed in our conversation. But thanks again for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you next time. Bye for now.